called stalactites. So stalactites hang tight to the ceiling. And underneath the stalactite, you might see a formation called a stalagmite. Now these are these little rocks that are growing on the ground, and if you're not careful, you might trip over them. That's an easy way to remember the difference between the two. We call these dripstones because they are formed by water dripping off of them, so it's pretty simple. And you can kind of see, yeah, we call those cave kisses. So you can kind of see how these formations are forming along cracks in the limestone. So you see that here.
Okay, like estimate of the age.
So the cave we are in is what we call a Vadose cave, and that means it was carved on the Vadose water table, which means water was flowing through here very quickly when this cave was carved. Most of our Vadose caves are very similar to this, where they have this really high ceiling, and they're kind of a narrow passageway. So it's not going to really widen up very much as we get back in here. Vadose caves, we do know, are our older types of limestone caves, and we do have an estimated age of when the water table was on the Vadose water table. And that is 300 million years ago to 200 million years ago.
Oh my goodness.
But that being said, it's up for interpretation. As a park interpreter, I'm required to say that because that is if you believe in scientific stuff.
Right.
There are other, beliefs, creatism.
Theories.
Yeah, there's different theories. So from a scientific geological point of view, this cave is millions of years old, and that might not be what you believe, and that is fine. It is different depending on who. There is a puddle, and it does get a little narrow for a second. It does get slick sometimes. If you do have to touch the side of the cave wall here, that is the exception. I would rather you do that than fall. Alright, if you all don't care to hang out here for just a second, I'm going to turn some lights on.
Oh, she's coming.
Oh.
She thought she left us. Something just off my forehead.
Remember last time I said it was broke?
Yeah. Are y'all okay back there?
I'm just looking for ghosts.
You're looking for ghosts? Well, you're in the wrong cave. Salt Peter's your haunted cave.
Saltpeter, the one that we get for ghosts. Next time.
Alright guys, so we have made it to the middle of X Cave, and when you're in the middle of X Cave, you're in two very special places on the park. So first of all, the caves forming very closely together, and over time, the pressure from this water carving away at the limestone in between caused it to collapse, open these two caves up into be one. So now we have one cave, but they used to be two different ones. Not only is X Cave two different caves, it is two different types of caves. And if you guys look and listen, you will notice some similarities and differences between the two. First of all, what do you hear that's different?
Any gold?
Water?
Water dripping.
No gold in here, no. Pyrite sometimes. But we do have water that is dripping.
Yeah.
Over here on this side, we don't hear or see that on this side. We also have a lot higher ceiling over here, right? Much shorter on this side. We also see some of those pretty formations I was talking about up there. We don't have that over here. So over here, you guys are what we call a wet or living cave, and I am in a dead or dry cave. So why would two different types of caves form so closely together? And it has nothing to do with what we're looking at, because both of these are limestone caves. But there is a rock on top of us on this side that stopped that cave from being able to carve up higher, and that rock is called sandstone. So that carbonic acid I was telling you about only has effect on limestone. It has no effect on sandstone. So as that water was flowing through here, it could carve a higher and higher and higher ceiling, never ran into anything else, And now that water can come down into the soil, trickle into the limestone and form all these pretty formations. But on this side, that water ran into sandstone. So as it was carved in this cave, it couldn't carve a higher ceiling. And now none of that carbonic acid can get in through that sandstone unless there is a large crack in it. And there are a few places over here. We have just a few formations because that was able to happen. So we are going to see both the wet side of the cave and the dry side. And you guys will notice a lot of difference. But the only speleogen formation, which are the ones that go into the cave that I've talked about so far, is the dome. So all of these formations I'm about to talk about are much, much older than anything else we've talked about. So you guys see all these little holes here and all these lines.
Yeah.
So does anybody here like to go hiking?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you go hiking on trails that have limestone, a lot of times you'll see, big pieces of rock of that limestone that has these little holes in it, or natural bridges will often have these big holes in it from the weathering and erosion that formed that natural bridge, or came through that rock, or came through the cave. And this is all something called solution pitting or bubble holes.
Yeah.
So what happens is, as that water is coming in here, it is carrying pieces of debris with it, like any other creek water or river water would. Rocks, sticks, all of this is beating into the rock and leaving scars in the rock. So that is just called bubble holes. Another example of a scar left in that limestone is right here above your head. So you guys see how it kind of looks like it goes up and is cut out with a cookie cutter shape?
Yeah.
This is what we call a kettle bottom. Excuse me. So kettle bottoms are formed when you have some type of whirlpool that forms in the water for whatever reason. So as that water is coming in here, it is under a lot of pressure. It can hit up against a piece of debris or a rock and start spinning, creating that whirlpool. Over time, that carbonic acid swirls up and up and up, and it eats away at the limestone, and it creates that little area that goes up like that.
That's pretty cool.
One more speleogen formation I want to talk about is what we are seeing right here. Now you can see this all along the sides of the cave walls through here, and you can see it in any cave that is carved by water, and it's something called scalloping of the cave. So scalloping is where you see the water has came through here and it's carved a little indent in the side. So if you're ever in a cave system and your guide tells you that, oh, we know water flowed this way in this cave and it was moving very fast and this is how long it was doing it, they know all of this based on scalloping alone. Because scalloping tells us the speed, direction, and duration of water flow. So these specific scallops right here tell us that the water flowed this way very quickly over a shorter period of time. And that is what classifies this as a Vados cave. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, this is sweet though.
One more thing I want to point out along the dry side is you'll see some deposits in the limestone along the wall. We have an example of some right here. We can see it when we get closer to the X. I'll be able to show everyone a little bit better. But this is a rock called chert. And if you're not familiar with what chert is, a type of chert is flint, which is something that Native Americans use to make their tools. So often I am asked if Native Americans utilize our caves. And we don't have any evidence to support the fact that they did. We didn't find any artifacts or anything like that. If anything, this chert being here tells us they probably didn't, because you guys know we have not came very far back into this cave right here. So if they would have wandered very far back into this cave at all, they would have found this chert, they would have mined this chert, and they would have used it. So Native Americans probably didn't utilize it.
I don't want to be at the end. Let me go. Oh, really? Oh, you okay?
No.
Better watch your head.
You alright?
Everybody here?
Oh no, we've lost Bob.
So that chert.
Dad, you look like you're having a hard time.
Really large piece there, and you guys can see more towards the X as well.
What's going on?
Where's the church? Where's the church?
Is it church? Ooh.
Right here is what.
Whoa.
The Indians would?
Yeah, this is the fence.
Watch your feet.
Flint is the strongest type of chert. This is not flint, but it is still very strong and it could make tools.
I mean, what?
I could buy some flint to make a fire.
So there is some border that is poured through here, and you can see that line here is covering our full line, and it is gray in color chert.
Oh, you're saying
Yeah,
that.
this is just concrete border.
But this right here would be the chart right here?
Yeah, so that is chert right there, all of that.
This is all,
And they could take that and make a plant with it?
Yeah,
So,
this is all fake.
this is all fake. You all just put this together.
Yeah, we dug this big hole in that.
What's that up
millions
there?
of years, yes.
Alright guys, so we are right back at the end. So because of the way water carved this cave, there are 4 natural entrances and exits all at the end of each leg of the X. So for that reason, this is the one exception to getting lost in a cave. You absolutely cannot get lost in X cave, and if you do get lost in X cave, you deserve to be lost in X cave, because if you make it to the X, you can turn around and keep going any direction and you'll make it out.
Really?
Really? So we came in this way, we went out that way, we came back in this way. Here in a minute we are going to exit this way. But first, I have been telling you guys this entire time that we are in a cave. You all believe me when I say that.
Sure.
We better be in a cave, you paid for a cave tour, right? So does anybody know the 3 requirements it takes for a hole in the ground to be classified as a cave?
Well, digging, let's see.
Someone's called
Do
my
we
name.
even have it? Like,
Yeah, the water.
So that actually is one of the requirements. It has to be big enough for a person to be able to fit inside.
Yeah,
A full-grown human being. But there are 2 other requirements.
looking for gold, I guess.
So first of all, it does have to be carved by natural forms. So
Yes.
this
Not
specific one
man-made.
was carved by water. It can be carved by wind, ice, volcanic eruption. Something naturally had to happen to form the cave. You can't just dig a big hole in the ground and call it a cave.
So not man-made.
Yeah, so secondly, once that hole is there, a human has to be able to fit inside it, like I said. And lastly, once that human is in that hole in the ground, they have to be able to go far enough out into the earth to experience natural natural total darkness. Now, of course, we have all these lights through here. So we're not in the dark right now. But do you think if I turned all these lights off, we would be in the dark?
No, I don't
Would
want
you
to
guys
take
like
that
to
chance.
experience that?
Hey, yeah.
All right, guys. So I am going to do total darkness. It is going to look. I'm going to turn off all your light sources, so there's no light in here.
Turn your light off.
Do you guys see that switch right there?
Yeah, this.
Yeah, go ahead and flip that. I'll keep my flashlight on. Okay, so right now, the only light in this cave is my flashlight. Are you guys
Turn
ready?
it off. Yes, hold on, turn it off.
1, 2.
Sweet.
It's bad.
So wave your hand in front of your face.
It's okay. You might not turn the
You
light
guys
on.
experience total darkness.
You can't, and something.
What's right?
Please go ahead.
Just touching me.
Ooh.
So if we stayed in total
Ouch.
darkness as humans long enough, we'd eventually go blind. And that is because human retinas need light to be able to process images. So what happens when you're in a dark room? Your eyes start dilating, and after they dilate so big for so long, they will not constrict anymore, and that causes you to go blind. But we're not staying in this cave, we're not going to stay in the darkness. We are going to exit this last lake that we haven't seen yet. And I will warn you guys, there's not a whole lot to look at through here, but if you all have any questions, feel free to ask. It's going to look very similar to the other side of the dry side.
Yes, it was.
Salt
Oh, yeah.
Peter specifically would be the best cave probably to do that.
Yeah, and you think you would do this out? I got a cutting torch.
Yeah, but they got the keys to the front of the cave though. When
I
all
said-
of us start coming down here, they're gonna
I said
ask us.
I said I got a cutting torch.
Oh.
Alright guys, so this is the exit we are going to take today. Like I said, because of the way X cave formed, we have 4 natural exits.
Yeah.
So we have one here and one here. Between the two, which one do you think is man-made?
The stairs.
The stairs are not a natural cave formation, believe it or not. Now, if you guys come over here, I'll show you why we are not going to go out the natural exit and why we had to make a man-made one.
Well, of course it's not, it's man-made, my goodness.
That canyon we saw coming in, this is where the natural exit leads to.
Yeah.
Now, believe it or not, we actually used to take tours out of this exit. There was a bridge that went across here at one point in time and over to the Welcome Center parking lot. This bridge was actually built in the late 1800s by the original landowner of this cave, the Lewis family. They used to give private cave tours before we acquired this in 1946 to make this a state park. Now, back then, they just walked out through here. But over time, that bridge is made of wood. What happens to wood? It rots, and then eventually it did get so weak in the 1950s, this bridge collapsed with a tour group on it. Now, we are owned by the state, and the state does not like liability. So instead of rebuilding that bridge, they made a new exit that was much safer, and that's the exit we're going to take
Well,
today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but you got kind of like.
So what happened to the people that it collapsed on?
So no one was killed, but there was some serious injuries.
Dang it.
So broken bones,
Well,
stuff like
alright.
that.
So you're a ghost?
So no ghosts.
Oh.
Well, you never know, back when the family might have owned it.
Yeah, you never know what happens. All right, guys, so I am about to take you out of here and over that right nose station. But do I have any questions while we are still inside of the cave?
Oh, wow. I didn't even see it.
So this is actually where they drilled to blow out with dynamite, and this is where they're going to put that exit. Now, they discovered if they kept digging and drilling this way, they were going to end up over that canyon.